just double check it is actually recording. The app is recording. All right. I'm not going to read the notes. The homework assignment is already online, so I'm not going to kind of read off it. You can read off that. So what I'll do instead is I'm just going to do the demonstration itself of what to do and how to do it. Okay. And also the most important part is why we are doing it. So I'll explain the why first. We are going to use Linux as our development platform instead of Windows, because the assembler that is available in Linux is actually, I would say, more standard and more capable. And two, it gives us the possibility of looking into how to interface with the operating system, which is harder to do it in Windows. So that's why we're going to use Linux as a development platform. If you already have Linux running on your laptop computer or your home desktop computer, you still want to make use of the virtual machine, because the instructions that we talk about in this class are 32-bit instructions. And most of you probably have a 64-bit Linux installed, and the instruction set is slightly different. So to make sure that your program will compile and run correctly when I'm grading it, we want to make sure they're all 32-bit. So you just have to run the 32-bit virtual machine like the Windows people, which is not going to be a big deal. Now, it's not going to be very helpful if I show you how to do the homework assignments when your native environment is Linux already. So what I'll do is I'm going to pretend that I'm running Windows and then see everything from that perspective. But then you guys will say, but Tack, you're running Linux right now. Yes, that really is the case. And I did not forget anything. What I need to do is to mount my second volume from the USB 2.0 external hard drive, and just go to there to back up. Oh, no, it wants user first. Back up. And my name. Go to Win7. So this is the first thing I have to do is to let's see, what is VM7.sh. So I'm running Windows inside Linux. And then later on, I'll be running Linux inside Windows inside Linux. So this way, for those of you who are familiar with Windows, you know exactly what you would need to do your homework assignments. It's a little bit slow because it's emulated, so it's not going to be running at full speed. Plus, it's going through a USB external hard drive. Just want to check one thing. I'm looking for the hardware acceleration flag, the VTX flag, and see if the processor supports it. Doesn't look that way. That may be partially why it's running so slow. Okay, well, that's okay. It's just going to be a little bit longer. Oh, that's going to be a lot longer. Because I haven't run this particular virtual machine for a whole semester, plus the summer, and numerous updates have been released during that time. Now it has to apply all of those updates. So that's why it was starting up so slowly, is just because of the updates. Then it probably wants to reboot again. But I find it really handy to run Windows as a virtual machine, so I can run it anytime I want to, but I don't have to leave, Linux to do it. I don't have to dual boot to do it. Alrighty. Are there any questions so far? No? Okay.
With the Logisim processor we're going to be building, you mentioned, will we all be essentially making the same exact machine? Because you said you'd be doing most of the work.
Yeah, you're not going to build the whole thing. I will give you like a base design, but you'll be changing it and adding some features to it.
But will that look the same for all the students, or will it be?
The base one will be the same because I'm going to give you the base design, but the modifications, will look a little bit different depending on how you want to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. But there won't be a whole lot of variations in this case. All right, so Windows has started up and has some more updates to do, I'm pretty sure. Go. Okay, so start up your browser to go to the website, go to the homework assignment. If you have an external hard drive with about 5 gigs of space left, you can actually do it today. I would not do it on a regular thumb drive. If you have a regular thumb drive or SD card, I don't really care that they say it's a class 10 or class 11 or class 100. Okay, most of these SD cards are not designed for sustained, transfer. They can do transfer really fast for a few megabytes or maybe tens of megabytes, but after that, they really slow down. So an external hard drive is really the best option to do it. All right, so I'm going to go to the website, https Moodle. There we go. And I'm going to sign in as a student. So this way, you will see what you should be seeing when you sign in. All right. So am I already a part of 310? Yep, looks that way. All right. So we want to go to numbers and data representation. Go to the second activity. The first one is kind of done already, but we'll take a look at the second one first. I'm not going to do it here because to click on the link itself, that's going to it's going to download 1.2 gigabytes of stuff, and it's going to take a while. So instead of doing that, I'm going to say, let's assume that's done already, because I'm pretty sure most of you know how to download a file with a link, right? So I'm going to assume that file is already here. That file is just a zip file, and all you have to do is to unzip that file. Extract all files within a zip file and put it onto either the internal hard drive of your computer, or preferably put it onto an external hard drive. Because that way you can take the external hard drive, plug it in to any PC on campus, and just double click on an icon to start the virtual machine. So that will give you a lot of opportunities to work on your homework assignment. If you put it onto the internal hard drive of your laptop computer, it's still kind of handy, but you will still have to use that computer all the time. But if you put it onto an external hard drive, you can use it on just about any computer. So this is the next step. So the next step is just to extract the drive. I have it done already. So when I look at my virtual machine, I have a quote-unquote external hard drive, the E drive, and I just decompress everything to a Linux folder. This is the folder that I have everything decompressed to. Are we still doing okay so far? Even though I did not actually download or decompress the file, it's already done in this case. I do not do it here during class because it's just going to waste our time to download a 1.2 gigabyte file and to decompress it. Okay. All right, so from here on, this is actually the more important part. You double click on the Linux folder. QEMU is already installed. The batch files to start it up correctly, they're already here. So the only thing you have to do is to find out whether you have a 64-bit version of Windows or a 32-bit version of Windows. Most of you are probably going to have a 64-bit version of Windows and not 32-bit. In the virtual machine, I have a 32-bit. If you have a 32-bit version of Windows, you double-click Start 32. If you have a 64-bit version, you double-click Start 64. Are there any questions about how to start up the virtual machine? Go ahead. Okay, if you have a Mac, you have to get your own installation of QEMU. I believe it's just called Q, the letter Q. So once you install that, you can actually use the shell start.sh here. This command can also be used on a Mac to start up the virtual machine, but you will have to install QEMU separately. Okay. All right. So I'll just go ahead and click Start 32 to start up the virtual machine. You can also right-click and edit to look at the batch file. The batch file does give you a few options. For instance, with this one, I am allocating 256 megabytes of RAM to the virtual machine, which is actually quite a bit more than what it needs. Okay, so if you want to shrink this a little bit more, you probably can, but 256 is just a safe amount to allocate to the virtual machine. The rest, you really don't have to pay much attention to, except for this one here. This is the port number for this SSH port. Just remember it's 2200. We'll make use of this later. Okay. And I'm just going to double click on the batch file, and that will start up the virtual machine. So now I'm running a Linux virtual machine inside Windows, which by itself is also a virtual machine running inside another, Linux.
Like a black hole.
It's a holodeck in a holodeck. And because of that, it's really, really slow. So I'm just going to let this run for a little bit. In terms of concept, this is what you need to remember. The virtual machine is really, for all practical purposes, a different computer. Okay? The file system is separate from your Windows file system. So that means whatever file you download into Windows does not automatically get into the virtual machine. The homework assignments, which you'll be doing inside the virtual machine, cannot be seen from Windows, not automatically. So we'll need to use a tool to transfer files from the Windows side into the Linux side, and also the other way back when you do your homework assignments. It's not complicated. It's just that once you understand the concept, then you know, okay, I just need to use a tool to do that. Are there any questions about that part? The whole infrastructure, how everything relates to each other. Okay. Questions? Okay. All right. So we'll just wait a little bit because virtualization, inside virtualization does take a little bit longer.
How come no one's come up with something that just automatically, once you download a file, they exchange? How come no one's come up with something to just automatically exchange files between them?
Because they're actually two computers. Conceptually, the virtual machine is actually a separate computer from your Windows machine.
But I'm saying, like, if we see this running on our computer, like, why don't they make a program that says, oh, we downloaded a file?
Well, we have that program, but it's not automatic,
Okay.
because there's no tool to easily say, okay, which file do you want to transfer to the other side? Any questions? Yep, go ahead.
I still have Linux from 360. Is that one fine?
It is the same virtual machine, but I have updated all the software packages with this one. You can do your own update if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? How many people have a really, really fast network connection from home? So you guys can do it from home. You can download it from home. If you don't have a really good fast connection from home, you can just do the download in the lab here, and so this way it can save you a lot of time.
It's about half done.
Sorry?
It's about half done. I started mechanic.
Okay.
It's about half done.
Well, when we have this whole class, actually doing a download of 1.2 gigabytes all at the same time, that might slow it down a little bit. And that's why I'm not doing it. All right. Any other questions? I'm not using the power, server, because this actually gives you more autonomy than doing it on power. Because once you have the virtual machine installed, you do not need network access at all. Okay, so that means until it's time to turn in the homework assignment, you don't need network access. So that will basically cut like 75% of all the excuses of I can't work on the homework assignment because the network is slow, my network connection is lost, and so on. Yep.
So could we use this one and listen to or like download this one?
It is the same as the 360 class. So if you have that one from before, you can still use it. So that saves you a little bit of trouble. The tools are the same because I use the same virtual machine for both classes. So you probably don't need to install anything new. If we do, I'll talk about how to do it.
Well, what would change between last semester's Linux and this one that would make a difference?
Not a whole lot. It really is just updated. It's just an update from before. So if you have the one from last semester, it's still good. Yep, this is getting really, really slow. I just needed to start up to the point where I can transfer files. That's basically what I want to do. Oh, okay. Well, since we're waiting on this one, I might as well use this time to illustrate what is important in your homework assignment. In your homework assignment, you'll be typing some commands in Linux. Like this one here. Is it ls or is it 1s?
LS.
It's ls, for those of you who know Linux commands already. But if you don't know what it is, one way to do it is to copy and paste it into Notepad first. Okay, because Notepad has a font that is easier to read and differentiate what is what. Most of these commands are fairly straightforward. Okay, you just have to copy these commands carefully to get it done, except for the last one. Many people, I shouldn't say most, but many people have a problem with the last command because where you put the spaces is important. The tilde symbol is important. The uppercase C versus lowercase c is important. The back quote versus a forward quote is important. A forward slash as opposed to a backward slash is also important. In other words, if you make any mistake, this won't work. Okay? So my recommendation is to really carefully, if you cannot tell what is what, you can copy and paste it into Notepad first so that you can see, using the default font in Notepad, which one is what is what. Okay? Let me check on the virtual machine first. Well, it's getting there. This is slower. This is the slowest experience I have seen so far. It won't be as slow on your machine because you're not emulating on top of emulating. Okay, you're just emulating once. I'm emulating twice.
What do you mean by emulating?
Well, emulation is pretense. Okay, so every type of emulator is basically a program trying to pretend to be the hardware of something else. Okay, so in this case, Windows itself is already emulated in a virtual machine. And then this is running inside the emulated Windows. So it's emulated twice.
Okay. That's interesting.
It's impersonation of impersonation. Think of, well, I'm not going to go there. All right, so now we have a virtual machine. Your homework assignment, you will have to kind of work on your homework assignment. But I just want to demonstrate how to get files in and out of the virtual machine. That's the only thing I'm going to demonstrate here. You can use any tool you want to, but some tools are already installed within the zip file. The tool is called Winscp. So when you double-click Winscp, you will start up the tool. And Winscp is not only for connecting to a virtual machine, you can use it to transfer files to any computer that supports the SSH protocol, Secure Shell Protocol. This is the most important part, okay? Because the virtual machine is actually running on the very same hardware platform as Windows, you don't want to specify an actual IP address that goes out to anywhere. What you need to do is simply to specify localhost. Okay? Which basically means, okay, it is on the very same machine. Okay, localhost means it's on the very same machine. The port number, the default port number of SSH is 22. We do not use 22 because it's a privileged port. We have to use 2200. So just append 00 to the end of the 22. The username by default is just user. The password is also user on the virtual machine. So we have user here and user here. And that's it, okay? Once you have all of these specified, click login. And if this is the first time you run it, it will pop up a screen that asks, do you really want to do this? This is the fingerprint of the server and so on and so forth. Just click yes, okay? It's just confirmation to make sure that you are in fact connecting to the server that you intended to connect to instead of something that is not. Okay, so now we are inside Winscp. The left-hand side is basically all the files of quote-unquote the local computer, which is basically the Windows computer. The right-hand side reflects all the files on the quote-unquote other side, the Linux machine. This is the virtual machine on the right-hand side. This is the Windows machine on the left-hand side. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a chance to guess. How do you transfer files from one side to the next? Drag and drop, exactly. Okay, well that's one way to do it. You can actually do command shortcuts and the keyboard shortcuts to do it too. But drag and drop is how you do it. So let's just say that I want to drag and drop this letter to grandma to the other side to transfer this file to Linux. Drag and drop. Okay? Whenever I show you a solution, what do?
Test it.
Say, really? Are we sure we're not transferring to the same machine? Well, let's figure it out. Okay. So what we'll do is we are going to go into the virtual machine, log in as user. The password of user is user. Okay. You can change that, but I really don't see any need to do it. It is really hard for someone to hack into the virtual machine because the SSH port is only open to localhost. So whoever is trying to hack into the virtual machine, they have to have access to your Windows environment to begin with. And I'm pretty sure there are far more interesting stuff on the Windows side than on the Linux side. So I'm not too concerned about hacking into the virtual machine. Yep.
So what's the username and password for virtual machine in this one?
I just said it. User and user. Yep. All right. So now we will run the command called ls. And do we see the file that we just transferred?
Yes.
Okay, but that's no confirmation at all. Because what if that file had been here the whole time, right? Okay, fine. We'll remove it on this side and make sure that Winscp will also reflect that the file is now removed. Okay? So we'll remove the file is rm, letter to grandma. Now the file is removed. On the Linux side, it's no longer here. Let's double check on the other side to see whether it is removed. And you go like, okay, Tech, you were wrong. It did not go away. Well, let's try F5 and refresh everything. Nope, no, F5 is not the one. Oh, I can always use this icon here. Control R, refresh. On the other side, Control R, and it is gone. So this is a reminder, because when you do your homework assignment, occasionally you will say, oh, I thought that file was removed, or I thought I just transferred the file. But if you don't refresh, sometimes it does not reflect the update state on the file system. So you got to remember to type Control R or just click that button. To transfer files the other way is just drag and drop as well. So if I want to move this readme.txt file to the Windows side, this will do it. Just drag and drop. Are there any questions about how to use Winscp? Okay. that should be enough information to get your homework assignment started. And if I go back to the homework assignment itself, I will just kind of finish the whole thing. Once you're done, okay, you want to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the screen and click Add Submission. Okay, this is how you turn in the file that you have just created and moved into onto the Windows side. So you click Add Submission. And unfortunately, I have to scroll all the way down again. Yep, go ahead.
That file's already in the packet that we're downloading, right?
Which file?
The letter to grandma or the test, the one that you're...
No, I just picked a random file.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so you can now specify which file to upload to Moodle. So click Browse. Now remember, your browser running in Windows can only see files on the Windows side. That means you have to use Winscp to copy the submission file from the Linux side back to the Windows side before using the browser to find that file. Okay? So over here, I'll just go ahead and say test.tar.gz is the file that I want to use to turn in. Click Open. I'm not done yet. Okay? Just because the browser reflects that the attachment is going to be this file is not doing anything at this point. So you got to remember to click Upload this file. And you would think once you click Upload this file, you're done. Well, that's not the case either. Once you have uploaded the file, it will show that the file is quote-unquote uploaded, but it's not finalized. In other words, it gives you a last chance to say, are you sure that this is the file that you want to turn in? For this homework assignment, you can turn it in as many times as you want before the due date. So even if you turn in the wrong file, no big deal. Just click on it, delete it, and then you can turn in another file again. So in this case, let's just say that this is the file that I want to upload. I click Save Changes. The next screen will confirm that I did upload this file correctly, because when I scroll all the way down, it will tell me that the homework assignment is due on the 3rd, which is next Thursday. I have 6 days and 22 hours left, so if I need to make any changes, I have time to do it. The last modification date is today. The time is 10:57, and this is the file that I just uploaded. If I want to check what I just uploaded, I can actually download this file back and examine it. This is how you confirm that you have turned in the file. What if this is not the file that I want to turn in? Well, it won't give you another upload opportunity until you have deleted this one. So what you need to do is to go to Edit Submission, and at the same place, you want to click the file that you have uploaded and just go ahead and delete it. Now you can upload again if you want to upload another file as your submission. Moodle can only keep one file at a time. So make sure that when you delete a file, you're not deleting the one that you want to upload. For this homework assignment, it only counts for 5 points. So it's not a big deal if you do not do it correctly. But for other homework assignments, you really don't want this last step to screw up all the points that you should be getting. Are there any questions about how to turn in files, how to run the virtual machine? Okay, well, I showed you how to start up the virtual machine. I haven't shown you how to shut down the virtual machine. Okay, so let's go to the virtual machine and we'll talk about how to do that. Okay, this is the virtual machine. There are, okay, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 ways to do it. I'll talk about the worst way to do it first. Okay, the worst way to shut down a virtual machine is to unplug the host machine. So if I were to go to the computer right now, not to press the power button, but to yank the power cord out, that might actually render the virtual machine unusable anymore. Okay, so don't do that. And a very smart student from cisp310 asked, what if there's a power fail? There's a storm, there's a power fail. Well, the answer is, well, you might actually host your virtual machine. So make backup of your virtual machine. The one file that you need to back up is the large file. It's called. It has an extension of qcal2. That's the only file you have to back up. Okay. The rest we can just decompress from the zip file. Okay. So if that is not a good way to do it, what about in the host environment? In this case, it's Windows. Just click shutdown. Well, it's not the best way to do it, but for the most part, it should not cause any harm. Because when you shut down Windows, it would actually shut down the individual programs first, which is the same thing as clicking the X icon in the window. Okay, so that brings us to this part here. What if I click this button here? It is equivalent to unplugging the guest operating system, or the Linux machine in this case. The file system that is being used here is extension 4. Extension 4 is a journaling file system. It is fairly resistant to that sort of thing. Okay, so you probably will be okay, but it's not really the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to change to the root account. If you are inside the user account, in other words, you're already logged in, and it shows you on the command prompt that you are user at this point, you can either log out and then log back in as root, or you can use the command call su to change to root privilege. Su stands for switch user, and it will ask you the password of root. Okay, the password of root is beer, root beer. Okay, so if you type beer at this point, you will sign in as root, and you can tell that you are now running commands as root, because instead of seeing user at Debian, you're now seeing root at Debian. So that's confirmation that you have changed your account from your user account, which does not have the privilege to run the next command, into a root command, into a root account. The command to shut down a computer is simply power off. So type power off, one word, all lowercase, press the enter key, and that will start up the sequence to shut down a machine. But that's not what I'll do right now. I'm going to exit out of the root shell and exit out of the user shell, go back to the login here. So you can log in from here as root, and then specify the password as beer, and type power off once you log in. So that's the other way to shut down, to log in as root explicitly, and then shut down the computer, the virtual machine in this case. Are there any questions about the shutdown instruction for the virtual machine?
What's the difference between typing power off and the root and the user?
There's no difference.
Okay.
It's convenience. So if you have signed off already, then you have to sign back in to run the command. But if you're already signed in as user, there's no need to log out from user to log in as root again.
Okay.
You can just use su to change to the root user. Okay. All right. Yep.
Will using the menus do anything adverse?
The menus will allow you to shut down, but that's also it's not a software shutdown. In other words, you're still unplugging the machine. You're not telling the operating system, I am going to shut down, so the operating system can actually do whatever is necessary to properly shut down without losing any content. As I said, the file system that I use is fairly resistant to, like power fail and stuff like that inside the virtual machine. So if you just accidentally click the X button to shut down the virtual machine, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Okay,
I was thinking about the machine, the power off on the left side, not the right side.
I know it's going to do the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, it's going to do exactly the same thing. All right. Any questions?
What did you use to log out of the user? You went from user to root. What did you do to log out of user? I didn't see that.
Just log out or exit.
I'll just type log out or exit.
Yeah, EXIT exit or just log out. Both will do exactly the same thing. Or Control D. If you press Control D on the keyboard, that will also get you out of that shell. All right. Are there any questions about what I just did? In the past half hour or so. Questions? Okay. Let's take a quick look at the other homework assignment, because there are 2 homework assignments and I'm not really sure whether I'm ready to assign the other one. So I'm going to leave this page. We go back to Logic Sim. Okay, so this is the Logic Sim homework assignment. I'm going to change it a little bit, so don't do it just yet. Okay, I'm going to change it a little bit, so the gates are a little bit different from this one. And then I'll send you a note. Okay, when I'm done, I'll send you a note and say this homework assignment is ready. But you probably still want to download Logic Sim so that you have it available. It doesn't hurt to try to redo some of the steps that I did earlier today. Okay, just as an exercise. Okay, make a half adder and then turn it into a full adder. Okay, just do that part. And then when this is ready, I'll send you a note and I'll say, okay, the homework assignment is ready to go, and it should not take you long. Once it is up and running. How long do you think it will take you to do the other homework assignment, the one that has to download the virtual machine and do some steps, create a file, upload it back to Ludo?
17 minutes.
That depends a lot on your networking speed, doesn't it? Okay, you have to download a 1.2 gigabyte file, decompress it, okay, run the virtual machine. But once you get the virtual machine up and running, it's really just typing some commands, get the file back into Windows, upload it. But do it as early as possible. As I tell both my students and my own kids, does doing something early mean more work for you?
No.
Nope. But if you get it done before the weekend, you don't have to worry about it for the whole weekend, right? Plus, if you do run into problems, we have one additional class meeting next Tuesday, so I can help you diagnose problems if you do run into some problems. Okay, but if you try to do it on Wednesday, because Mickey said it will take 17 minutes, so some people decide, I'll do it like 17 minutes right before the due date, or the time, which is 9 o'clock. But what if you run into some problems at that point? Right? Okay, go ahead, you have it.
Do you have a link for Logic Sim?
Link for Logic Sim is in the class website itself. So if you go to data and number representation, I think it's the second link or so. Yep, it is the second link. Logic Sim homepage. It's on SourceForge. Yep. Any other questions? Go ahead.
We have time to check this today.
Check what?
The lab activity.
Well, the structured instruction is pretty much done at this point, so I'm going to stop the recorder. You guys can either stay here and actually get the homework assignment done, turn it in, and just say, okay, my weekend is all free. Or you can, leave, go for lunch, and do this later on. It's up to you guys. But I'll be here until 11:50. So I'll be staying here until 11:50. You guys can stay here and do your homework, or you can go grab lunch or do whatever you need. Yep, go ahead.
Can you pull up the half adder and full adder? I had a few questions on that.
Okay, so that's an individual question, right?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I can stop the recorder at this point. So, are there any questions about the homework assignment? No questions? Okay, I'm going to stop the recorder and upload the recordings.